incredibly hard. Probably way harder than you ever thought you'd actually have to. You're putting in the hours, you're skipping lunch, you're checking those late night emails, and you genuinely try to do the right thing day in and day out. I completely see you, and honestly, this explainer was built specifically for you. Because today, we're unpacking a source that breaks down a deeply ingrained system, one that might just totally explain the bone-deep exhaustion you're feeling right now. Because let's be real, you did everything right. Society handed you a very specific rulebook, and you followed it to the absolute letter. You went to school, and you studied your heart out to get good grades. You landed a job, and you stayed completely loyal to your employer. When they asked for overtime, you gave it. When you desperately wanted to just say no to taking on yet another project, you smiled and said yes. You played by every single rule we were all promised would guarantee a secure, comfortable life. Which brings us to the ultimate question we're tackling today. If you did everything right, why are you still broke? Now, I don't necessarily mean homeless or starving here. I mean permanently stuck. Every single year, you watch the prices of literally everything around you skyrocket way faster than your paycheck does. You finally snag that promotion, but hey, it just comes with a massive mountain of stress instead of actual financial freedom. And no matter how many extra hours you grind, real wealth, the kind where you can actually breathe and make your own choices, it just always seems just out of reach. The source material asks a really provocative question here. What if the system was never actually designed to make employees wealthy in the first place? What if corporate loyalty is, well, basically a scam? Okay, let's dive into this. Phase 1, the illusion. We really have to dismantle this old societal promise that hard work automatically equals financial success. Let's look at where this rulebook actually came from. Back in the post-World War II economy of the 1950s, the formula absolutely worked. A single income could literally buy a house, support a family, and build up solid savings. Loyal employees were genuinely rewarded with pensions and actual long-term security. But then, as we roll into the 1990s, things shifted. Globalization exploded, technology rapidly accelerated, businesses completely transformed. And as we arrive in the 2020s, the source notes that workers slowly stopped being viewed as long-term assets and basically just became numbers on a giant spreadsheet. Today, loyalty is way too often rewarded with tiny, minimal raises and total replaceability. I mean, you could dedicate 10 years of your life to a company only to find yourself boxing up your desk after a 15-minute video call on some random Tuesday. So that brings us to phase 2, the awakening. This is where things start moving really fast, and where that feeling of being stuck on an endless treadmill really comes from. Modern corporations are designed to maximize profit, and the disconnect we're seeing here is just wild. On one hand, we have record productivity. Thanks to technology, one worker today can do the job that used to take 5 people. The value you create as a worker has absolutely skyrocketed. Yet on the flip side, incomes are completely stagnant. The source highlights that the massive financial rewards from all that extra value, they bypass the employees entirely and flow straight upward to shareholders, executives, and investors. It creates this incredibly dangerous illusion where you think, if I just work harder, I'll finally get ahead. But in reality, you're just running on a treadmill that someone else keeps cranking up the speed on. And to keep people running on that treadmill, corporations use a very specific type of language. You have definitely heard this a million times in training videos, offsite retreats, and HR presentations. We are a family. We grow together. It sounds so comforting, right? Well, it's actually designed to encourage you to sacrifice your personal time, sacrifice your health, and frankly, demand your blind loyalty. But according to the analysis in our source, it is fundamentally a total myth. The analysis points out a really harsh reality here. Layoffs happen overnight. The exact second an economic downturn hits, all that family talk, poof, it disappears. Benefits vanish. Entire departments get erased with the stroke of a pen. From a pure business perspective, a corporation's primary responsibility is shareholder value, not your personal dreams. The source argues that employees treat companies like families, but companies treat employment as a strict transaction. The moment your labor becomes just a little too expensive, it gets optimized, automated, or eliminated entirely. No questions asked. Let's look at how this builds into the exact reason why so many people just can't seem to escape. It's a brutal combination of rising basic costs, housing, healthcare, groceries, and this thing called the lifestyle inflation trap. Every single time you do manage to get a small raise, it instantly gets completely swallowed up by bigger expenses. You know how it goes, upgrading from a reliable sedan to a luxury SUV on a ridiculous 72-month loan, moving to a larger apartment, racking up a dozen new monthly streaming and software subscriptions, increasing your debt. People might look wealthy on social media, but underneath it all, they are incredibly fragile financially. The research actually suggests that a huge chunk of high-income earners are secretly living completely paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because the system aggressively rewards consumption rather than ownership. And this financial fragility feeds directly into this next concept, the psychology of exhaustion. When you are in a state of continuous mental drain, you just completely stop thinking long-term. You literally only have the bandwidth to focus on immediate survival, paying the rent, just getting through the week. This is exactly why the whole rise and grind and no days off culture is not a badge of honor. It's a systemic tool. Think about it. Exhausted people rarely challenge the system. The more drained you are, the less energy you have to learn new financial skills or build alternative streams of income. It's designed to keep workers completely compliant and totally dependent on that next paycheck. Now, what's really interesting about this next shift is phase 3, labor versus ownership. This right here is the secret. This is the absolutely fundamental difference the source highlights between the wealthy and the working class, something that most schools simply never teach us. Workers trade time for money, while owners build systems that generate money. This distinction changes absolutely everything. If you rely entirely on a salary, your income has a hard fixed limit because your time is limited. You can only work so many hours in a week before your body just physically collapses, right? But assets, systems, they can scale infinitely. The wealthy understand that true leverage allows their income to multiply entirely independently of their personal physical effort. They are literally making money while they are sleeping. So, what do those systems actually look like in the real world? Here are the scalable assets the wealthy build and acquire. Stocks, literally owning pieces of actual businesses. Real estate, intellectual property, digital media and technology. These are vehicles of leverage. Someone working 80 hours a week might still struggle to pay down their credit card minimums, while someone who owns these assets watches their wealth grow aggressively without breaking a sweat. It's a tough pill to swallow, but the modern system rewards ownership far, far more than it rewards labor. Okay, let's pivot to phase 4, your escape plan. Look, traditional career paths are getting less and less predictable every single year with the rise of AI and automation. But the new digital economy actually offers unprecedented opportunities to build outside of those traditional corporate structures. Here are the actionable steps our source outlines to transition from a dependent worker to an empowered owner. Step 1, use your job. Jobs aren't useless, not at all. They provide essential stability and capital, but you have to start treating your job as a tool, not your entire identity. Use it to fund your escape. Step 2, control your lifestyle expenses. You've got to stop lifestyle inflation right in its tracks so you actually have some capital to deploy. Step 3, learn high-leverage digital skills. Adapt to the internet economy. And finally, step 4, build scalable assets. Start an online business, create digital products, or build up an investment portfolio. You need to combine your hard effort with actual ownership. I want to leave you with this final, incredibly powerful thought from the source material. Work for income, but build for freedom. Hard work absolutely matters, it really does, but it is ownership that ultimately changes the game. Please don't trade every single hour of your life solely for survival. Start building your systems. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to take a hard look at your own life right now. What can you start building today so that tomorrow you actually own your time? Keep learning, keep building, and I'll see you in the next one.